I do want to mention some other news and notes as we get ready for a big weekend this weekend. AEW has a big pay-per-view that's going to be happening this weekend. And we all woke up to news this morning as we're recording on Thursday that it looks like the Triller AEW relationship may be in jeopardy. It looks like AEW is going to have Triller carry their pay-per-view internationally, but not domestically. I saw some people complaining about that online. I guess there's a lot of people who've fallen into a pattern of ordering on Triller. And I guess one of the pros of ordering on Triller is you have access to all the old pay-per-views. So I saw some people saying, man, if Triller's in trouble, am I going to lose access to all my old pay-per-views? It's kind of a big story. What's going to happen with Triller and AEW. Have you seen any of this, Eric? And can you speak to the importance of having, a pay-per-view partner? Because obviously pay-per-view was a big part of WCW's opportunity. And of course, we do a deep dive on that in Guy Evans' new book, which we're going to have a lot of detail on in the coming weeks. I think it's going to be really eye-opening when they see some of these intercompany allocations that you've talked about for years, but maybe the internet wrestling community has maybe let that fall on deaf ears. But hearing it straight from Turner Corporate, well, that's a different matter. If we try to apply some of that to the current day, how big of a deal is this possibly for AEW and Triller?
Certainly don't know what percentage of AEW's gross revenues are derived from pay-per-view. I can speak to WCW and even WWE to a degree. Back in the 90s, early 2000s, when pay-per-view was probably represented 25% of total revenues. And I used to, discuss this with my team at WCW, is at that point in time, when things were running perfectly, Rolex watch perfectly, everything's grinding, all those gears are grinding together in harmony, if you will. 25% of your revenue would come from live events, 25% of your revenue would come from licensing and merchandising, 25% of it would come from pay-per-view, and 25% of it would come from sponsorship, ad sales, and such. Now, that's obviously changed dramatically as license fees have become the single largest line item. That was never the case,
right,
back when I was running wrestling. But it is today. So I'm sure that these percentages have changed, but I have to believe that I don't know what the percentage is, but if I had to guess, I would say with regard to AEW, because they don't have a lot of licensing and merchandising, it's insignificant, I would imagine, comparatively. So much of their revenue is dependent on pay-per-view and license fees. They don't tour. And if you don't tour, you're not going to have a lot of merchandising, if any, very little. Their licensing efforts to date have been marginal. I think at best marginal. That's being kind. But that also takes time. Truth be known, you've got to get hot before you're really going to enjoy significant and consistent merchandise sales. You've got to have a hot brand. That's a challenge right now for AEW. Not that they won't get there, but they're not there now. So when you look at the composite of their revenue, I would suggest that pay-per-view for AEW is probably the second most significant revenue stream in the company. So it is a big deal. It's an important deal, and it's important that they get it right.
I, for one, am reminiscent of the old FITE days. I know they were acquired by Triller, but it feels like Triller's just been kind of a mess. I don't think that whole short form video app they've been pushing for is ever really going to happen. Maybe they were banking on TikTok being banned in the US. I don't know, but the FITE days.
Here's what I do know. I had a little conversation with the Bare Knuckle.
Oh yeah, they're part of Triller. Yeah,
part of Triller, and I went to two of their events. Had a couple of meetings with David Feldman, and we were just exploring the idea of me coming on board there. Much in the way I've taken on the role at Real American Freestyle, and I dug a little bit into the Triller relationship because if I were to have gotten involved with bare knuckle fighting, a lot of my focus would have been on television and pay-per-view. And I had to understand the relationship, and I tried, but it was a mess. And if you ask around to anybody that's done any business with Triller, I think they started out with a great idea. Things got out of control, and it was pretty dysfunctional from what I've heard. So hopefully they'll figure out a way to salvage the platform and the opportunity, because there is a lot of great technology there. There's some great people there. There's some knowledgeable people there. I just think that perhaps they were chasing the wrong dog, so to speak.
Again, you and I don't know what's really going on, but I know we both think a lot of Mike Weber. You and he go back to the WCW days, and we're pulling for him. And I guess, you know, since we live here in America, I didn't even really think about this, but when this news hit, I saw a bunch of comments from people who enjoy AEW program internationally. I guess I kind of forgot that they have a program. I think it's called AEW Plus, where you can actually watch the shows on Wednesday and Saturday live, even without the commercial breaks. So you're getting, you know, more content, and you're hearing from the announcers during the commercial break, a real peek behind the curtain that we don't get here in America, because, you know, there isn't a TBS and a TNT on every continent, but FITE is everywhere, or I guess it's Triller TV. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Well, maybe you're ready to get off the hamster wheel. You know, the Federal Reserve data is showing that the share of accounts making only minimum payments has now climbed above 11% as of the first quarter of this year.
Damn.
That's the highest level since they started recording and tracking this data back in 2012. But at the same time, a recent survey from Experian found that 2 in 5 Americans are carrying credit card debt and believe that making the minimum payment is enough to manage it. But like millions of Americans, are you too struggling with high interest rate credit card debt? You feel stuck just making those minimum monthly payments? Well, you've heard me say time and time again, your home is still worth more than likely what you paid for it. So instead of carrying all that high interest rate debt month to month, why not use the equity in your home instead? Just take a look at Andy, my buddy up in Appleton, Wisconsin. He had some medical issues that forced him and his family to take on a lot of credit card debt. We hooked him up at SaveWithConrad.com. We helped him take advantage of the equity he had in his home. He paid off that debt, and he's going to save more than $1,000 a month. But how much can you save? Let my team run the numbers for you today for free, just like we did for Andy. There's no cost and no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. It costs nothing to look, as our pal JR says. And when you work with the team at SaveWithConrad.com, you can also expect our year 3 guarantee. Experts agree that interest rates are set to fall within the next few years, but we have an exclusive 3-year guarantee that allows you to refinance in the next 3 years at any time with no lender fees. So you lock in a better rate and reduce your monthly payments today, but you don't waste money with a whole nother set of closing costs later. The best time to start saving money is today. Well, actually, it was yesterday, but today is the next best opportunity. So why not access some of that newfound equity in your house? Turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. If you've got some honey-do renovations you'd like to do, maybe you've always wanted to upgrade your kitchens or bathrooms, you've got the equity in your house to do that too. No matter what you're looking for, we can help at SaveWithConrad.com. Find out how easy it is to get started. And just so you know, you don't need perfect credit. So even if you've had some problems, we don't say no, we say not yet, but here's how. We want to get you on a path to making those financial goals a reality at SaveWithConrad.com. Why not let my family help your family save some cash at SaveWithConrad.com? NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender, SaveWithConrad.com.